people had access to that Tesla. That's from somebody connected to all of this, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But if they did,
well, that would definitely complicate matters.
Now, from the very beginning, people online had their doubts about David's manager, Josh Marshall. They claimed he knew Celeste was underage, yet still encouraged her to run away from home and live with him and David. Now, the law has finally caught up with him, and federal agents have arrested Josh after leaked footage appeared to show him abducting 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez and dragging her into the Tesla. Prosecutors say he could now be facing life in prison. But to really understand how it got this far, you have to go back to where the red flags first started. Marshall is the guy that was supposed to be managing David's career, not getting dragged into something like this. But here's the problem. Josh didn't just know about Celeste, he was warned about her in black and white. Back in February 2024, a family friend of Celeste sent Josh an email, and this wasn't just some random note. It had her missing persons report attached with all her details. This message was blunt. We know Celeste is living with you guys. She needs to return home. And guess what? One day later, Celeste actually did go back home
with him, and that they included the missing persons flyer. She's a missing person. She's 12 or 13 at that time, and the next I think it was the next day or the day after, she showed up. She just showed up on her own back home.
Which means Josh saw the email. He knew she was a missing child, and he knew she was underage. He knew she was tied to this client, David. But weeks later, Celeste was right back at the apartment, living with David and Josh again. This is not speculation, but a timeline straight from people who knew her and tried to get her back home. Now, if you're managing a star on Interscope Records and you've just been told that your artist has a missing 14-year-old staying under his roof, what's the next move? You call her parents, you call the police, you create distance. But Josh, he stayed silent. One private investigator, Steve Fisher, who many say is a reputable missing persons PI that's been following the case closely, went on Pop Crime TV and flat out said the silence from Josh, David, and even Interscope Records was deafening and not a good look. And that silence wasn't just in 2024. Even after Celeste was found dead, Josh jumped online denying everything. He insisted that no such email ever reached him, and that he never lived with David, and that he had no knowledge of Celeste's situation. And when people on TikTok suggested that he might have been involved, he pushed back strongly, saying it was baseless and unfair to accuse him without evidence. But here's where the cracks start to show. Celeste turned up at his place not once but twice. That email sent in February was enough to bring her home the first time. Later, when she ran away again, her friends didn't call random people. They went straight to him. That detail alone, they believe he has directly involved in her situation. And y'all, that's where the story stops feeling like bad PR and starts feeling like something much darker. When Josh finally broke his silence, his response only fueled more suspicion. He insisted he never got any emails about Celeste, denied ever living with David, and claimed people were spinning false narratives and stories. He emphasized that he's a family man with 3 kids and had no knowledge of Celeste or what happened to her. So let me read the full statement, exactly as he wrote it. The video was false and the person is misinformed. This is the only time I'll speak on this matter. For now, this has been a tough time for my family as I am a father of 3 children. I receive no emails and I am no one's roommate. I live full time at home with my wife and kids. My daughter is 14 and this news is affecting so many lives. I never received any emails. I had zero knowledge of anything. I don't live in California. Also, I work remotely 95% of the time. My job doesn't require me to have much interaction with any of my clients / David, as there are many others that work with him on a day-to-day capacity, not me. This news is tragic for so many and for her family. I hope the proper authorities get to the bottom of it soon. Let me remind people, a lot of this is speculation and alleged. In the meantime, I'm with my family, helping them emotionally get through the news of this tragedy. Please report on factual information. Now, on the surface, that sounds like good damage control. I mean, this man trying to protect his family. But here's the issue. The receipts don't lie. The email existed. The timelines add up. Celeste's friends had contacted him before when she ran away, and somehow she still ended up living under his roof again. And then there's the M. When the police discovered Celeste's body, she was wearing a bracelet with a single letter, and fans instantly connected it to Josh Marshall. He's been pictured multiple times rocking a chain with that same M. Maybe that's a coincidence, but in a case where everything feels connected, people weren't buying it. The LAPD said her body had looked like it had been sitting in that Tesla for weeks before it was finally towed. Neighbors had noticed the car parked for a long time, and get this, that Tesla wasn't even hidden. It was just sitting out in the street, moved a few times before ending up abandoned on Bluebird Avenue. When tow yard employees caught the smell, police opened the trunk and found Celeste wrapped in a bag. Her remains were dismembered, and that's not something you can explain away with, "I don't know." That's something someone tried to cover up. And here's where it gets really detailed and where people can't ignore the facts. A neighbor later came forward saying they found a Tesla keycard near David's Hollywood Hills property, just sitting in the gutter. And they even admitted they picked it up with bare hands before realizing how important it might be. And then they turned it in to the LAPD. So with all this, Josh's online denial starts to sound shaky at best and incriminating at worst. Still, even with all this, Josh Marshall tried to push back. He wrote in one comment, "Stop creating false narratives and assumptions. I have no cars in California. I don't live with David. I had zero knowledge of anything." But the internet wasn't having it. On social media, people kept connecting the dots, and every dot circled right back to him. While Josh has been busy denying everything, fans were running their own investigation. On David's official subreddit, which had more than 200,000 members, people started digging into Celeste's death and his connection to her. They posted screenshots, pointed out lyrics that suddenly felt darker, and even linked scenes from his music videos. But then something strange happened. The posts began disappearing. Entire threads were being locked, and that's when Redditors noticed that only listed moderator of his subreddit was David himself. In other words, he was the one removing the conversation, shutting down anything that made him look guilty. The backlash was instant. Fans accused him of trying to cover his tracks, and the subreddit eventually got locked altogether. But after the subreddit meltdown, fans dug up something even more unsettling. Turns out Celeste wasn't the only one. People claim David had a history of going after underage girls. One person even shared that he dated an 8th grader and would take trips with her to LA. But get this, since her friends knew about it, David allegedly paid them to keep quiet. Now think about it. If he was going on those trips while still performing, do you really believe he was doing it without his manager knowing? That's almost impossible. But what's more, months before Celeste's death, a chilling comment had already gone viral on one of David's TikTok posts. It read, "Waiting for LAPD to get your ass for messing with a 13-year-old girl." Now that was February 2024, long before Celeste's body was ever discovered in the trunk of his Tesla. But what made it worse was how public it had been. This wasn't some hidden DM or rumor whispered behind closed doors. It was right there, out in the open, with thousands of people seeing it, and David never responded. He just left it hanging. Now looking back now, that comment feels less like trolling and more like a warning, like someone already knew that something was wrong. And when fans connected that with his own music videos, the picture started to look even darker. And that's when people started revisiting his music, and what they found made their stomachs turn. In the video for One More Dance, David plays two roles, the killer and the victim. At one point, he drags the body across the floor and shoves it into the trunk of a car. Back when it first dropped, fans might have brushed it off as dark, edgy art, but after Celeste was discovered in the trunk of his own Tesla, those visuals hit completely differently. It suddenly felt like he had put the crime on screen before it even happened. Was it just eerie coincidence or something more sinister? Either way, the internet couldn't unsee it. And yet, as fans were connecting these dots, one group stayed completely silent, his label. While fans were tearing the internet apart with theories, Interscope Records, the label backing David, said nothing. Not a single statement, not even a vague, "we're aware of the situation." And for a lot of people, that silence spoke louder than the words. And this is the same label that once signed Cassie when she was still a teenager, so ignoring the fact that one of their artists was now being linked to a dead underage girl felt suspicious. Were they protecting their investment instead of demanding answers? The lack of accountability only fueled the outrage online, and the internet wasn't going to stay quiet, and the next wave of backlash wasn't just directed at David, it was aimed straight at Josh Marshall as well. The silence from Interscope only made the noise online louder. On X, people weren't just questioning David anymore, they were dragging Josh into the storm too. They remembered that email. They knew Celeste had stayed with them before and weren't buying Josh's denials. And one post that went viral read, "The silence is deafening. David, you have nothing to say about your underage girlfriend ending up in a dead car registered to you? And you, Josh Marshall, you knew everything about his life. You managed him. How are you both still quiet?" Others went even further. One user bluntly wrote, "Arrest these two mother effers right here. One or both of them did something to Celeste. Josh knew she was underage and missing. Lock them both up. LAPD is taking too long." But by then, it wasn't just about shady lyrics or deleted Reddit posts. To fans, it looked like a coordinated cover-up. An artist, his manager, and even a major label all refusing to speak while the body of a 14-year-old girl had been pulled from his car. And the longer the silence dragged on, the more people believed the truth was being buried. It wasn't just strangers on Reddit or TikTok anymore. People who actually knew Celeste started speaking out. Now let's not forget Celeste's ex-boyfriend Damien. He revealed that she didn't have the easiest home life. According to him, Celeste often talked about running away. Sometimes it sounded like a joke, but other times it felt like she meant it. Damien remembered one moment clearly. Celeste laughed about leaving her Lake Elsinore home behind, and then one day, she actually disappeared. His mother, Jamie, backed him up. She said Celeste had confided in her family about the problems she was facing at home. To them, it wasn't shocking that she wanted to escape. What was shocking was how quickly she fell into a situation that would end so tragically. And the records prove it. The Riverside County Sheriff's Office confirmed Celeste was reported missing at least 3 times in 2024 alone. Think about that. 3 separate times before she vanished for good in April. This wasn't just some one-off. She was a kid constantly trying to escape something. And here's where things take a darker turn. Josh allegedly knew about Celeste's unstable home life. He knew she was a runaway. Instead of helping her, instead of sending her back where she might have been safe, he allegedly used that knowledge to his advantage. According to insiders, Josh became the one who convinced her to leave home and stay with him, a move that would later raise questions about whether he played a role in pulling her deeper into danger. Now people online are saying that there's something off about Josh. According to them, it's not just his connection to David, it's his whole track record. Josh was also managing Lil Mosey back when Mosey was accused of. And guess what? Mosey walked free after Interscope lawyers, the same ones tied to Josh, helped beat the case. Meanwhile, not everybody's pointing a finger at David. Some actually believe he's innocent. Charleston White came right out and said he didn't do it. His reasoning? There's no real evidence linking David to the actual killing. He even questioned the logic, saying, when do they let a man walk free if they have even a little bit of proof? They've locked people up with way less than what's here.
He didn't do it.
Fuck out of here. All the evidence that's out there.
When they gonna let a nigga stay out this long and they got a little bit of evidence? They didn't arrest nigga with way less evidence. If nothing else, put him in jail just to put a hold on him.
And that's where that shift starts to happen. If that's the logic being pushed, that the LAPD doesn't have enough evidence against David, maybe that's exactly why the feds turned their attention to someone else. And now it looks like the feds finally have had enough to move in on Josh Marshall. Reports say they're looking at serious evidence, including what might be video and photo footage from that Tesla, the kind of proof that doesn't just spark rumors online but actually holds up in court. At this point, it's bigger than internet theories. A 14-year-old girl lost her life, and people who were supposed to be adults in the room, the manager, the artist, even the label, stayed silent until the law stepped in. Whether Josh was the one who carried that body, or whether he just knew too much and said nothing, the outcome is the same. A career meant to guide an artist turned into a headline about an arrest. And if the feds really do have that kind of evidence people are whispering about, Josh Marshall could be spending the rest of his life answering for the choices that he made.